All right, in this particular session, we want to talk about blinding of Satan. As we look at the elements of the devotion, this isn't so much an element of something that we would do, but it is certainly core to the devotion. This is the whole idea, right? The greatest attack of Satan is going to be met by the greatest outpouring of grace. So let's talk about this idea of blinding Satan. All right, so blinding Satan for the salvation of souls and for our families is core to the devotion. In fact, here a little later, in speaking with one of the priests that she was supposed to go to, Elizabeth says, this priest understood the essential message, which is to blind Satan. This is the principal and only purpose of the flame of love of the Blessed Virgin. She herself promised an outpouring of graces so great as have not happened on earth since the Word became flesh. And Jesus says elsewhere, Satan blindness means the universal triumph of my divine heart, the liberation of souls, and the opening of the way to salvation to its fullest extent. As we said, people don't hear, people don't listen. Our evangelization efforts are somewhat blocked. We work and we work and we work, and a few come, but not very many, because they're so blinded and so confused. So by blinding him, we open the way to the salvation to its fullest extent. And Mary says, trust at last in my maternal power by which I will blind Satan and free the world from damnation. And she experienced what blinding Satan looks like. Mary permitted me, Elizabeth writes, Mary permitted me to feel in a wonderful way the effects of the grace of her flame of love, which at that moment were felt not just by me, but by all the souls in the country. Again, you actually might ask, why Hungary? It's explained in the diary. But Hungary was the first nation on earth consecrated to Mary. That King Stephen, a great saint, was about to die. There was no clear heir, and he just entrusted the entire country to Mary. That's why Hungary. So Mary began to speak, that Satan was blinded for a few hours. She says, now Satan has been blinded for some hours and has ceased dominating souls. Lust is the sin making so many victims. Because Satan is now powerless and blind, the evil spirits are set and inert, as if they have fallen into lethargy. They do not understand what is happening. Satan has stopped giving them orders. Consequently, souls are freed from the domination of the evil one and are making sound resolutions. Once those millions of souls emerge from this event, when Satan is back to his old tricks, they will be much stronger in their resolve to stay firm. Later, Mary says, the soft light of my flame of love will light up, spreading fire over the entire surface of the earth. Satan, humiliated and reduced to powerlessness, will not be able to exercise his power. Remember, we spoke about it's not just the attack on families. We see this disintegration of society, this anger and this hatred. I mean, you open up Facebook and you see the left cursing the right and the right cursing the left, and it's just this monstrous outpouring of hatred. Mary says, yes, my little one, we will put out fire with fire, the fire of hatred with the fire of love. The fire of Satan's hatred hurls its flames so high that he believes his victory is at hand. But my flame of love will blind Satan. I have placed this flame of love in your hands, and soon it will reach its destination, and the flames which spring from my love will quench the fire of hell. My flame of love, with its unimaginable light and beneficent warmth, will wrap the earth. To accomplish this, my little one, I need sacrifice, your sacrifice, and the sacrifice of many such that the minds and hearts where the infernal hatred is burning may receive the soft light of my flame of love. Interesting. Where hate is burning needs to receive the flame of love. Because indeed, people can change by grace. That's our hope, isn't it? That's our hope. That's our only hope. By grace, without grace, we'd be hopeless. Then she explained, do you know what you represent? Speaking to Elizabeth, you are a sparkle of light enkindled in my flame of love. The light you receive from me enlightens souls. The greater the number of souls who sacrifice and watch in prayer, the greater the power of my flame of love on earth will be. Hence, line up in close ranks, because it is with the power of sacrifice and prayer that the flash of hellish hatred will be overcome. Evil will diminish gradually. The burning flame of hatred will be put out, and the splendor of my flame of love will fill all regions of the earth. Now, interesting, notice she says that evil will diminish gradually. Like she said, it wasn't going to be this great miracle of Fatima. It's not as if we're going to have a cenacle one day and the next weekend we're going to come to St. Vincent and the pews are full. Right? That'd be nice. Wouldn't mind that at all. But Mary is telling us practically evil will diminish gradually as the burning flame of hatred will be put out as the splendor of her flame of love spreads and fills the earth. So again, this blinding of Satan drives out hatred. Mary says, and I, the beautiful ray of dawn, I will blind Satan. I will free this world darkened by hatred and contaminated by the sulfurous and steaming lava of Satan. The air which gave life to souls has become suffocating and deadly. No dying soul should be damned. My flame of love is already lighting up. You know, my little one, the elect will have to fight against the prince of darkness. It will be a terrible storm. Rather, it will be a hurricane which will want to destroy the faith and confidence of even the elect. In this terrible turmoil currently brewing up, you will see the brightness of my flame of love illuminating heaven and earth by the effusion of its effective grace I am passing on to souls in this dark night. And earlier she said, my love that is spreading will overcome the satanic hatred that contaminates the world so that the greatest number of souls is saved from damnation. I am confirming there has never been anything like this before. This is my greatest miracle ever I am accomplishing for all. Not in one concentrated place, but throughout all of us, open to the flame of love. Now, this is interesting here. Very, very powerful statement that Mary makes about blinding Satan at the moment of death. Right? St. Faustina would talk to us about the remarkable things that happen at the moment of death, beyond where we can see, the incredible things that happen for the salvation of souls. While praying before dawn, the Blessed Virgin spoke with me about the effective grace of her flame of love. Right? That's what we pray. Hail Mary, full of grace, spread the effective grace of your flame of love over all of humanity. Mary says, from today on, when you, together with the person designated to you as companion, are in vigil, and we'll talk about night vigils later, to you who already know my flame of love, I will grant the following grace. As long as your night vigil will last, my flame of love will act upon those who are dying throughout the whole world. I will blind Satan so that my flame, gentle and full of grace, will save them from eternal damnation. That's something we can do. That's an opportunity that Mary and Jesus are giving us, not doing it themselves, but giving it to us to save all of the dying from damnation. Mary says, you see, my little one, once the flame of love in my heart lights up on the earth, its effective grace will also spread out to the dying. Satan will be blinded, and through your prayer at the nighttime vigil, the terrible struggle of the dying against Satan will end. Coming under the gentle light of my flame of love, even the most hardened sinner will convert. Now, the degree to which Satan is blinded, to which we can free people to hear this gospel, free the dying, depends on us. Yes, like all things. Mary and Jesus, they can do this. God can just snap his fingers. Doesn't even have to snap his fingers. He can just think the thought, and it's done. But he doesn't, because we need to become like him. We need to have as much concern for souls as he does, and that's a whole separate cenacle presentation. Mary said, you must dedicate yourselves to blind Satan. It's not a part-time thing. The coordinated forces of the entire world are necessary to accomplish this. Do not delay, because someday you will be called to account for the work entrusted to you, for the fate of a multitude of souls. I do not want even one soul damned. Satan will be blinded inasmuch as you work against him. Pray constantly to the Blessed Virgin with this prayer, Elizabeth writes. Our Mother, spread the effective grace of your flame of love over all of humanity. Each time you pray invoking the flame of love for all humanity, Satan is blinded and loses his dominion over souls. Help me save souls. My flame of love will blind Satan to the same extent that all of you spread it around the world. Mary says, get to work. Don't be lazy. I'll help you with an almost miraculous way. My help will always continue. Trust me. Act quickly. Do not put off my cause for another day. Satan doesn't look on this with arms folded. He's making enormous efforts. He already feels that my flame of love is lighting. This provoked his terrible fury. Enter into battle. We will be conquerors. My flame of love will blind Satan to the same extent that all of you spread it around the world. And again, the unity prayer that we mentioned. Jesus said, this prayer is an instrument in your hands. By collaborating with me, Satan will be blinded by it. And because of his blindness, souls will not be led into sin. And Satan's blinding must spread everywhere. Interesting statement here by Mary. Hurry, my little one. The moment is near when my flame of love will ignite. At that moment, Satan will be blinded. I want all to feel it in order to increase your trust. This will give you great strength. All those whom this force will reach will feel it. The flame will ignite and will reach the whole world, not only in the nations consecrated to me, like Hungary, but all over the earth. It will spread out even in the most inaccessible places. Why? Because there is no place inaccessible to Satan. Where he is, we must be. This blinding of Satan is strongly associated with Mass, with adoration, and with sacrifice. Mary says, my little one, you are the first one showered by the effect of my flame of love, full of grace. And in union with you, I'm extending it to all the souls. Whenever someone does adoration in a spirit of atonement or visits the Blessed Sacrament, as long as it lasts, Satan loses his dominion on the parish souls. Wonder why a parish with perpetual adoration can accomplish so much good. All right? Blinded, he ceases to reign on souls. Mary says, if you attend Holy Mass while under no obligation to do so. All right? So Sunday we have to go once. All right? But other times we don't have to go. Not multiple times on Sunday, not during the week. If you attend Holy Mass while under no obligation to do so, and you are in a state of grace before God, during that time I will pour out the flame of love of my heart and blind Satan. My graces will flow abundantly to the souls for whom you offer the Holy Mass. Because when Satan is blinded and devoid of his power, he is unable to do anything. The participation in the Holy Mass is what helps the most to blind Satan. Tormented and breathing out terrible vengeance, he wages a ferocious battle for souls, since he feels the impending coming of his blindness. And interestingly here, kind of what Jack was saying before, there are all these things that we can do, but Mary assures us we can blind Satan in our everyday lives. Mary says, throughout the day, you should offer me your daily chores for the glory of God. Such offering made in a state of grace, we keep coming back to that word, right? Made in a state of grace also contributes to blind Satan. Live in accordance with my graces, so that Satan will be blinded even more in an increasingly large range of action. Take advantage of the abundant graces to make a multitude of souls live a holier life. All right, so with that in mind, with understanding now a little more about the blinding of Satan, what do we do? What are our next steps? Okay, our next steps now are to actively work to blind Satan. Actively work to blind Satan. This isn't passive. This is, sometimes it's strange. If we were in a war-torn zone, if we were being invaded by some nation, you'd see the armies and we had to rise up and be dedicated to do something about this to prevent domination. In this case, we don't see our enemies, but the bodies are strewn everywhere and the casualties are mounting. It's that serious. We have to actively work to blind Satan. So what do? Unity prayer. Right? Jesus says, prayer is an instrument in your hands. By collaborating with me, Satan will be blinded. And because of his blindness, souls will not be led into sin. The flame of love, Hail Mary, and the Rosary. Right? It also blinds Satan. the fivefold sign of the cross. And as we've learned, offering our work, our sacrifices, masses, and adoration for the blinding of Satan. All right, so that's that particular topic. Before we move on to the next one, any thoughts or questions, ideas? Yes, please, let's get your mic, Debbie.
I think, just a thought came to me, I think an important part for those that are participating in this is that, is getting ourselves into state of grace to whatever level. And I think confession is such an important part of that, weekly confession.
Yes.
So that we can be opened up to the graces, not only that we're trying to get for other people, but for ourselves to make this successful. So I think, because that seems to keep on coming up, in the state of grace, in the state of grace, and there's different levels of state of grace, and I think confession is a sacrament that is so underutilized. And they talk about trying to get at least once a month, but even weekly confessions, because that was something that Pope John Paul did, at least is once a week. And I think it's a great thing, because there's a lot to be done, a lot to be said about confession and how to make confessions, especially when you're trying to live in the state of grace. What does confession look like? Or is it when you go once a week? What do you confess? Because there's different types of confessions. You know, there's the mortal sins and the big stuff, but then as you go in and you're moving along in your devotions, I think you become more, for me, become more aware of the things, what I have done, what I have failed to do. So what I have failed to do sometimes is, you know, the reflect what in my thoughts, in my words. Sometimes the thoughts you don't realize. You say, well, maybe that, you know, I sinned in my thoughts. I never thought of it that way. But I think confession is an important part of the success of this.
Yes. You'll find that we actually have a separate cenacle presentation, because it is an element of the devotion, this constant sense of repentance. And that Mary actually laments the fact that we're not taking advantage of the sacrament of reconciliation like we should to enable grace. So spot on. It's very, very true. All right, any other thoughts, ideas?